Welcome to the Ben Gregersen Show.
Adams, Mason, Franklin, Gary, Ames, and Washington. Lee and Rutledge, Hancock, Wilson, Wythe. Sherman, Adams, Hall, and Rodney, Penn, and Dickinson.
For the 56 men who signed the Declaration of Independence and the 37 who signed the Constitution.
And here's to you, Mr. Jefferson. We all miss you more than you will know. Whoa, whoa, whoa. God bless you, please, Mr. Madison. Heaven help these fools that legislate. Rights away, our rights away. We'd like to know why you haven't read all the bills you filed. We'd like for you to read them for yourself. Look around you, all you see are patriotic guys. Stroll around the land, the brave and free go home. And here's to you, Mr. Jefferson. We all miss you more than you will know. Whoa, whoa, whoa. God bless you, please, Mr. Madison. Heaven help these fools that legislate. Rights away, our rights away. Hiding all your $1 trillion debt so we don't know. Hide it in your made-up FICA trust fund. It's a little secret, just the congressman will know. Worst of all, you pass this debt on to the kids. They think we're fools, Mr. Jefferson. We all miss you more than you will know. Whoa, whoa, whoa. God bless you, please, Mr. Madison. Heaven help these fools that legislate. Rights away, our rights away. Ripping up our Constitution every afternoon. Give themselves a raise with no debate too. Laughing at founding fathers when they've got to choose. Everything they warned of's coming true. Where have you gone, Ron Wilson Reagan? Our nation turns its lonely eyes to you. Woo, woo, woo. What's that you say, Mr. Jefferson? The giver has left and gone away. And we prayed, wish he stayed.
Good evening, Pocatello. There's a lot that I want to discuss tonight. A lot to cover. Hopefully I could get it all in the 30-minute time frame that I have on the air. One of the things I want to go over is Benghazi, because I feel like we can't really discuss enough about that issue. And the American people still want to get down to the answers. We want answers to why the terrible things in Benghazi happened. We want answers to why the White House lied to us, because they did lie to us. I find it quite disturbing that the Obama administration attempted to cover up evidence that Al-Qaeda committed the attack in Benghazi just because they wanted to save their own butts. Isn't covering up the evidence of a terrorist attack a federal crime? Barack Obama promised to bring the people who did this to justice. But how could he bring them to justice when he was covering up Al-Qaeda's involvement by blaming it on protesters that were angry about a YouTube video? Every American citizen, I don't care who they are, every American citizen should be furious that Obama provided cover for Al-Qaeda just because he thought his re-election was more important than the truth. We really need to get down to this Benghazi thing and get down to the answers. I mean, one thing a lot of people find messed up about the whole situation in Benghazi is that we don't even know where the president was when all this was going on. We don't know if the president was in the Situation Room. We don't know if the president was asleep. We have no idea what the president was doing during this period of time that terrorists were attacking our consulate in Benghazi. And the White House won't tell us what the president was up to during this period. For whatever reason, the White House does not want us to know what the president was doing that night. And I don't know why they're suppressing that evidence or that information. It's just, it bothers me. There's so much information that they're trying to suppress in the whole Benghazi story. And we really just need to get to the bottom of it. There's another video here that I want to show you. I show you guys videos on this show all the time. But this is a video here. And this video is called "What If I Wanted America to Fail?" And I think it's a very good video. I think it's brilliant, and I think it's the truth. It presents exactly what's going on in our country today.
If I wanted America to fail, to follow, not lead, to suffer, not prosper, to despair, not dream, I'd start with energy. I'd cut off America's supply of cheap, abundant energy. I couldn't take it by force, so I'd make Americans feel guilty about using the energy that heats their homes, fuels their cars, runs their businesses, and powers their economy. I'd make cheap energy expensive, so that expensive energy would seem cheap. I would empower unelected bureaucrats to all but outlaw America's most abundant sources of energy. After banning its use in America, I'd make it illegal for American companies to ship it overseas. If I wanted America to fail, I'd use their schools to teach one generation of Americans that their factories and their cars will cause a new ice age, and I'd muster a straight face so I could teach the next generation that they're causing global warming. When it's cold out, I'd call it climate change instead. I'd imply that America's cities and factories could run on wind power and wishes. I'd teach children how to ignore the hypocrisy of condemning logging, mining, and farming while having roofs over their heads, heat in their homes, and food on their tables. I would never teach children that the free market is the only force in human history to uplift the poor, establish the middle class, and create lasting prosperity. Instead, I demonize prosperity itself so that they will not miss what they will never have. If I wanted America to fail, I would create countless new regulations and seldom cancel old ones that would be so complicated that only bureaucrats, lawyers, and lobbyists could understand them. That way small businesses with big ideas wouldn't stand a chance. And I would never have to worry about another Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, or Steve Jobs. I would ridicule as flat earthers those who urge them to lower energy costs by increasing supply. And when the evangelists of common sense try to remind people about the laws of supply and demand, I'd enlist the sympathetic media to drown them out. If I wanted America to fail, I would empower unaccountable bureaucracy seated in a distant capital to bully Americans out of their dreams and their property rights. I'd send federal agents to raid guitar factories for using the wrong kind of wood. I'd force homeowners to tear down their own homes built on their own land. I'd make it almost impossible for farmers to farm, miners to mine, loggers to log, and builders to build. Because I don't believe in free markets, I'd invent false ones. I'd devise fictitious products like carbon credits and trade them in imaginary markets. I convince people that this would create jobs and be good for the economy. If I wanted America to fail, for every concern I'd invent a crisis, and for every crisis I'd invent the cause, like shutting down entire industries and killing tens of thousands of jobs in the name of saving spotted owls. And when everyone learned the stunning irony that the owls were victims of their larger cousins and not people, it would already be decades too late. If I wanted America to fail, I'd make it easier to stop commerce than to start it, easier to kill jobs than create them, more fashionable to resent success than to seek it. When industries seek to create jobs, I'd file lawsuits to stop them, and then I'd make taxpayers pay for my lawyers. If I wanted America to fail, I would transform the environmental agenda from a document of conservation to an economic suicide pact. I would concede entire industries to our economic rivals by imposing regulations that cost trillions. I would celebrate those who preach environmental austerity in public while indulging a lavish lifestyle in private. I convince Americans that Europe has it right and that America has it wrong. If I wanted America to fail, I would prey on the goodness and the decency of ordinary Americans. I would only need to convince them that all of this is for the greater good. If I wanted America to fail, I suppose I wouldn't change a thing.
So, when I first saw that video, I thought, wow, that is such an eye-opener. And it's true. You know, what that guy is describing there, that is exactly what's going on today. And just a lot of bad stuff is going on. You know, liberals are causing a lot of problems in this country. One of them is Obamacare. I'm sure you heard the CBO report that came out within the last week that told us that over 2 million jobs are going to be lost because of Obamacare. That's disturbing in itself. Here we are, we're trying to get out of, this recession, and yet we're being told that Obamacare is going to cause us to lose over 2 million jobs. It's just astounding to me. It's amazing that anybody could support Obamacare. We're going to lose all these jobs. And not just that, it disincentivizes people to work. Because here's the thing. If you have a job, you'll get less money in government subsidies for health care. The government is essentially going to pay for your health care if you don't work. So it's disincentivizing people to go and get a job. Why get a job if health care is going to cost you more money if you have a job? So a lot of people are going to decide not to work because health care is going to be cheaper if they don't work. How are people going to have money to live and to thrive? Well, they're going to get it from the government, welfare, food stamps. And I've never known anybody that's been lifted out of poverty by food stamps and welfare. The only thing that could lift a person out of poverty is hard work. Going out there and getting a job. Going out there and working as hard as you can and fulfilling the American dream. I'll tell you what welfare is. All right. So when you're poor, it's kind of like being in a hole. There's a big hole that's been dug, and you're in it. That's what poverty is. Now, what welfare is it's the government throwing a piece of chicken into that hole to keep you happy with the situation that you're in. That's basically what it is. It's to make you feel better about being in poverty. That's what welfare does. It makes it so you could, I guess, accept being in poverty a little bit better. It makes poverty more comfortable, is what welfare does. Now, I'm not saying that I'm entirely against welfare and that welfare shouldn't exist. My belief in welfare has always been this. If you are receiving welfare from the government, then you should be required to work. I think that work should be community service. Because obviously everybody in the community is paying for you to live when you're on welfare. So I think that there should be a community service requirement. If you don't have a job and you're on welfare, then you should be required to do community service. A certain amount of community service should be required. I don't know how much. I'm not a lawmaker, so I haven't decided how much community service should be required. But I think that if you do not have a job and you're receiving welfare, food stamps, and any of that stuff, then you should be required to do community service. I think that something like that would help lift people out of poverty, and it would encourage people to get a job. You know why? Well, how many people do you know that want to do community service for the rest of their lives? Not very many people. If they get a job, they won't have to do community service anymore. You get my drift? That is how I think the system should work. And here's why I believe that. The success of welfare should not be determined by how many people are in it. It should be determined by how many people that get out of it. You see what I'm saying? The success of welfare should be based on how many people are getting out of welfare, not how many people are in it. That's how we know if welfare is successful. And right now, our welfare system does not lift hardly anybody out of poverty. If anything, it's kind of a trap that keeps people in poverty, and they're dependent on the government for the rest of their lives. And I'll tell you why this is. The Democrat Party needs a permanent lower class in order to survive. The biggest voting bloc for the Democrat Party is poor people. So the Democrat Party, they have no desire to lift people out of poverty. Because if people leave poverty, they're no longer dependent on the government and they lose voters. The Democrat Party has no incentive to lift people out of poverty and to get people off of welfare. They want everybody to be on welfare, and they want everybody to be dependent on them. The Democrat Party wants a permanent lower class, because if they have a permanent lower class, they could play class warfare games, and they have a ton of people that are dependent on government. And people that are dependent on government are going to vote for Democrats, because Democrats are going to give them more free stuff. It's sad, but it's true. All right, folks. There's one last issue I feel should be discussed tonight, and that is, well, before I get to that, I'm going to talk about some other things because I think we still have time. Sorry about that. I'm not going to get to the last subject yet. I'm going to put up the phone lines because I want to hear some of your calls. Please call in the show. I don't know how many of you have heard, but Ron Paul is suing Barack Obama. over Barack Obama's NSA scandal. And amazingly, I'm trying to think, a review board, an executive branch review board, went over the NSA scandal, and they viewed all the documents, and they said that the Patriot Act does not support Barack Obama's NSA data collection program. Barack Obama's data collection program is not legal under the Patriot Act. Now, I'm not a huge supporter in the Patriot Act, but I think it is important for people to know that Obama's NSA data collecting program is illegal. It's illegal in the Constitution, and it's illegal according to the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act does not justify Barack Obama's NSA data collecting program, where he is collecting the phone data of every single American, not just terrorists. Hello, welcome to the Ben Gregersen program.
Hello, man.
Hello.
I kind of like your haircut. That's okay. I think you've been getting a little porky, haven't you? You got to watch your diet.
Hey, you know what? Probably true. Probably eating a little too much chicken.
I see that probably too. I do want to ask you something about your lead-in guy, Lelig, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
He's pretty conservative like you.
Yeah.
But what do you think of him?
I like him. I think he's a good guy.
Why do you like him?
He's a nice guy. You ought to meet him sometime.
No, I don't mean about his personality. What do you think about his politics?
I agree with him.
And why would you do that?
Why would I do that? Because I'm a conservative.
I know that. We all know that. But, he's talking about, people who do not like, gays and all that kind of stuff.
You know what? Ralph does not hate gays. I know that's the liberal spin.
You know that. But why is he such an asshole?
He's not.
Yes, he is.
No, he isn't.
Let me ask you a question.
I guarantee that if a homosexual wanted to be friends with him, that he'd be friends with him.
I would agree with that.
He may not agree with their lifestyle, but he'd be friends with them.
Let me ask you a question. Why did he cut off the call-in to his show?
Well, I don't know if there's a phone hooked up in that room he's in now.
Yes.
He used to be in this room where I'm at.
No. There was a call-in, and he cut it off because so many people were so upset at him.
Well, how do you know that? Now, I've never asked him, but you're just making assumptions.
Well,
maybe he wanted to change the format of his show.
Perhaps.
So he could get more info across.
Ben, the next time you see him, ask him why he cut off the call-in.
Yeah, I'll ask him.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Ben.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night. Well, before the end of the show, I actually want to talk about the ordinance, the anti-discrimination ordinance, and here's the thing. This is why I am opposed to the ordinance, and I encourage everyone to go and vote against it. I believe in equal rights, where everybody is treated equally. And in the ordinance, if you're homosexual, you actually get more rights than a straight person. Now, I do not think that somebody deserves more rights based on their sexual orientation. I believe in equal rights, and I believe that everyone should be treated equally before the law. Now, in this ordinance, it's going to bring up a lot of issues. One is hiring people at work. Say you have 5 people competing for a job at some business. And one of the people competing for the job says, hey, I'm a homosexual. Guess what's going to happen? That homosexual is going to have the upper hand just because of his sexual orientation. That business owner is going to be afraid of being sued for discrimination. Even though him not hiring the gay guy has nothing to do with him being gay. Maybe he just wasn't as qualified as the other person competing for the job. But you're going to have a situation where the homosexual is going to have an upper hand, in a competition where people are competing for a job. And that is not right. Everybody should be treated equally before the law. And that's why I do not support this ordinance. That's one of the reasons. Another reason is comes to renting. There are renters. The people who rent their apartments or their homes have property rights. All right? And there's a situation here where, I'll say this. Renters oftentimes like to do background checks on the people that they rent to. They like to see if the person has a criminal background and if they're somebody that they could trust. Now, in the past, and actually not just in the past, but right now, if a renter finds a criminal background on somebody, they do not have to rent that apartment to them. They could say, my family lives upstairs. I don't know if I trust this guy living in my basement and being so close to my family. Some guys don't want an ex-sex offender or an ex-murderer living downstairs. And that's their right as a homeowner and as a property owner. But in this situation, if this criminal says, hey, I'm a homosexual, the homeowner, the property owner, is going to be forced by law to let that person live in their basement where they have their family upstairs. Why? Because if they deny that apartment or that basement to that person, they'll be accused of doing it because of discrimination. And the truth is, they weren't discriminating against them because they were gay. They were discriminating against them because they had a criminal background. But the law is going to force them to allow a murderer or a thug to live in their basement because of their sexual orientation. Now, straight people don't have that right. Let's say I was a murderer and a thug. I'm not, but let's say I was. I am straight. If I want to rent a place and a guy does a background check on me and he finds out that I'm a criminal and he doesn't allow me to live in that basement, guess what? The law is not going to back me up. The law is going to back that guy, and I'm not going to be able to live in his place. That's just how it is. And these guys have that right because there's a thing in this country called property rights. And it's in the Constitution.